Hi, welcome to StatStuff. I'm Matt Hansen. In this lesson, we're going to explore Lean and a little bit further by reviewing a brief history about Lean, the philosophy of Lean, and some of the more common tools and concepts associated with Lean. The one prerequisite for this lesson is the introduction to Lean and Six Sigma. Please review that other lesson first if you have any difficulty in understanding some of the information from this lesson. So let's begin by reviewing a brief history about Lean.
Well, it's interesting to think that Lean is typically used for continuous improvement, and the principles themselves with Lean have continuously improved throughout its own history. A lot of the history behind Lean generally goes back to first Benjamin Franklin with a lot of his writings regarding waste and efficiency and cost savings. And a lot of his principles have been influenced heavily with Henry Ford, who's the next major historical character who is usually known for the application of a lot of Lean principles, especially associated with the assembly line. Next, beyond that, it was the Toyota production system that had extended a lot of these concepts, where they put a lot more attention on the flow of the work, that is, the flow of the production itself. Now, though a lot of these principles have been going on for many years, it actually wasn't until 1988 that the actual term Lean was coined in the way that we use it now. It actually started off in an MIT student's master thesis, where they first used that phrase, and then it became more popularized through the book The Machine That Changed the World. And then after that, it quickly grew as a business management philosophy, and it was very often complemented with Six Sigma, just as it is today.
Okay, now that we know a little bit more about the history of Lean, let's dig a little deeper by exploring the general philosophy of Lean.
Yes, you heard me correctly, that Lean is more of a philosophy than a methodology. So it's not like Six Sigma, which is typically a formal methodology that has a step-by-step process for how we apply certain tools for resolving problems. Lean is a little bit different. It's more of an informal philosophy, or like a mindset, a way of thinking. And there's still tools associated with it for resolving problems within the process itself, but it doesn't have the same kind of step-by-step process that's defined in the same way as Six Sigma. So let me show you an example of the difference between the two of them. If we consider from the Six Sigma perspective, we might say that generally there's some start and some finish at some point when you work a project that follows that methodology. So as you begin a project that's Six Sigma oriented, you work through it and you reach some sort of endpoint, and you can consider yourself to be done with that particular project, having resolved the problem at hand. Lean is a little bit different. It's usually more open-ended, where each person looks for opportunities within the process, and you're continually looking for those opportunities. So it's basically like taking the process itself and looking at every step within the process. And then after looking at it, you work through it, you find different opportunities, you improve it, and then you continue to look at it again. The assumption behind Lean in this way is that there really is no such thing as a perfect process. So if there is no perfect process, that means there's some room or opportunity for making some sort of improvement, even if it's a small one. That's generally the mindset behind the philosophy of Lean. So Lean itself primarily focuses on improving a process. So the purpose of Lean itself is, like we've used the example before in the IPO flow model, how it is like in this example of the meat grinder, it is the crank within the process that takes the inputs and it creates some sort of output. It's a way of looking at the process to try to improve the efficiency or the flow of the process itself. So how do we improve the actual process or efficiency or flow? Well, this is where we have a certain set of tools that are used within Lean to identify where there are some opportunities to eliminate waste that's in the process. So does that mean that Lean won't at all improve the output? Well, no. The output is dependent on the process. So by improving the process, you very well could be improving the output itself. If nothing else, at least the efficiency of creating that output. But one thing to keep in mind is that as we improve the efficiency of the process, we have to always maintain focus on the output, on the quality and accuracy of that output. So remember, the idea here of efficiency is you're focusing on decreasing the time or effort in the process itself while maintaining at least the same or better quality or accuracy that's reflected in the output.
So now that we know there's no formal methodology associated with Lean, like there is with Six Sigma, how can we make sure that we find and make the right improvements?
Well, that's a great question. But there are lots of tools and concepts that we can use within Lean to help us improve a process. So next what I want to show you are a list of the different concepts or tools typically associated with Lean. First of all, for the Lean concepts, those usually include something like value-added versus non-value-added, one-piece flow versus batch processing, different types of system designs like push versus pull or Kanban systems or just-in-time, 5S programs, 7 deadly ways, poka-yoke. All these are concepts that we're going to be covering in separate training videos, but they're all associated with Lean. Now, those differ from different tools or metrics that are associated with Lean. Some of those include the spaghetti diagram, first-time yield and rolled throughput yield, or WIP, process mapping, value stream mapping, and takt time. These are some of those things that are a little bit different, again, associated with Lean, but they're different in the sense that they're tools or metrics that might be associated with Lean and helping to improve a process. So, a broad way that we can describe and how we apply these tools and concepts is first that we would look at a process and we would look at it first for the flow or waste reduction opportunities using the concepts. And then next, after that, we would try to use the tools and metrics on this side to help measure and implement the improvements to that particular process. Typically, we might do something like that in a Lean workout, and that's where we can help synthesize the use of these different tools and concepts in a practical way. Now, the Lean tools and concepts typically work best in a manufacturing environment. That's where you see them most often used. But that doesn't mean they can't be used in a non-manufacturing environment. As long as you have a process, there's an opportunity to use these different Lean concepts and tools to improve that process, even if it happens to be in a transactional type of environment or some sort of non-manufacturing environment. But since manufacturing environments have tangible products, things moving across a visible production or assembly line, it's going to make it a lot easier to look for those opportunities where you can see the waste, you can measure the waste, or you can see the improvements that are happening within the process itself.
All right, before we close this lesson, let's discuss how we can apply some of these concepts in a practical way.
All right, what I'd like to ask is, have you already heard of some of these different tools or concepts associated with Lean? And if you had, what type of exposure have you had to them? And what are some of the positive results or outcomes from that experience that you've had with them? And what are some of the negative results or outcomes that came from that same experience? And what do you think could have been done differently, if there's anything, that could have mitigated some of those negative results? Next, what I want you to do is try to identify at least 3 different processes that you actively control or participate in. Obviously, the preference would be to focus on processes associated with maybe your job. However, if you have any in any area of your life, it would be good to identify those as well. So, what opportunities or improvements do you think there are in improving those processes? Now, if you can't think of any, then does that mean you believe those particular processes are quote-unquote perfect? Because if they're not perfect, then there has to be some sort of type of improvement opportunity there, even if it's a small one. And if so, what are some examples of maybe what some of those small opportunities could be for improvement?
Well, that wraps up this lesson. Check out StatStuff.com for many more resources that can help you achieve powerful results. I'm Matt Hansen. Thanks for watching.